Thank you, Chairman Button and committee members, for focusing on childcare today. My name is Kishani Wolderbahn, and I am an owner of 4 childcare centers in the DFW area, licensed to serve over 500 children daily. I have been in the early care and education for over 22 years and own my centers for 12 years. My wife, I wake up every day and go to work because I have the passion to educate and provide high-quality learning experiences to all children in my community. All my centers are 4-star Texas Rising Star and nationally accredited. Prior to 2020, private childcare providers did face challenges with no funding and adequate resources. We lost enrollment due to pre-K-4 programs in the public schools. Childcare challenges are impacting families, businesses, and communities. The COVID-19 pandemic has made this an exceptionally challenging time for childcare and has shined a light on the importance of the profession for the workforce. During the COVID-19 shutdown, it was the childcare providers that played the key role in supporting their essential industries. Many providers, my 4 centers included, remain open despite the physical risk of my staff, to support the needs of the families in our community. Many childcare providers are now having to close their programs, unable to sustain operations with diminishing enrollment and staffing shortages. Staffing shortages are at the highest in the childcare profession. As a result, finding childcare has been a nightmare for families. I too am experiencing a staffing problem, with 15 teacher openings and 4 director openings within my 4 centers. Hiring is harder now than it had been before the pandemic. We are spending thousands of dollars a month on Indeed, Glassdoor, Facebook, and other platforms so we can find quality staff. None of that has helped us gain new staff. People are applying, but no one is showing for the interviews. No one is showing up for the when they're hired and the background checks have cleared, not showing up for the first day of work, or not returning after lunch break. Because we cannot hire quality staff, we are serving fewer children. Without adequate staffing, myself and others are unable to provide high-quality learning environments for children. With a wait list of over 50 children and not knowing when they can start due to the staffing issues, hiring standards cannot be lowered when it comes to providing high-quality early care and education to children. The Child Care Federal Relief Funds have aided to providing bonuses for my staff, health care benefits at no cost to them, mental health and self-care training, and products to keep them. This has enabled me to retain most of my pre-pandemic staff, but still has us struggling to hire new. As a small business, even with the federal child care relief funds that we received, which only covered rent, mortgage, utilities, payroll, PPE, and raising tuition costs, with rising food and supply costs and low enrollments, puts us in a position where I cannot afford to compare with large sign-on bonuses and pay $20 an hour like at the fast food restaurants. Our payroll cost a month is 75% of our income, and the rest of the 25% must be used for other expenses like utilities, rent, mortgage, PPE, food, cleaning supplies, classroom supplies, property insurance, health insurance, auto payments, and others. The financial support to be able to provide to properly compensate all my staff is needed, and low-income working families cannot afford for high tuitions. Majority of the funds allocated to Texas workforce that was spent on training and coaching for teachers and staff were ultimately rendered useless to providers when there aren't staff to be trained and coached. Existing staff are mentally and physically overworked and exhausted, yet they keep pushing through because they want to serve the children. I feel that the childcare providers have been forgotten as heroes, as essential workers. I see continued support for public school teachers, but who is thinking of supporting the childcare providers and staff who kept their programs open to the working families in the community? We need to acknowledge the risks that the men and women in childcare put themselves and their families in the continuing to show up and accept children into their programs every day. The average childcare teacher in Texas makes around $10 an hour, and 56% of childcare teachers in Texas rely on public assistance, such as food stamps and housing benefits. We need policy and funding solutions that lead to professional salaries and benefits for our early childhood teachers. The work they do is rooted in science and research. It requires special training and preparation as they are supporting the child at the most critical time of development, laying the foundation for the rest of their life. Yet we pay them so little. Would you want your child or grandchild's teacher to be making just $10 an hour or on public assistance? $10 an hour is less than most families pay for babysitting. Who has no training or understanding of the childcare development this little? Families and the Texas economy depends on the childcare sector pre-COVID and continue to need access to affordable childcare in order to support the Texas workforce. Economic relief is not possible without solving the childcare crisis. Temporary relief funds provide just that, temporary relief. They are far from the required sustained investment in our economic's backbone. Texas doesn't work without childcare. When you invest in childcare, you invest in every industry in the state. You support small businesses, and you do right with your state's most precious resources, our children. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to hear my story.
Members, any questions? Thank you so much for sharing your personal stories.